Have you?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to On the Right Side, live from the America First warehouse. I said the White House.
You've been covering the White House too much, David.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm David Zier at Real America's Voice News, and I have my partner in crime here, Steve Levy, former Suffolk County executive, former New York State Assemblyman, Democrat turned Republican, fiscal conservative. Is there anything you haven't done?
I'm worn out. I'm worn out. Very few people have been a Democrat and a Republican, an executive and a legislator, and served on a local and a state level. So I see it from all sides, David.
Yeah. And you were trying to save the taxpayers' money, and they tried to take you down for it. So thanks for holding fast. And you're from the Center for Cost-Effective Government. Also, you do an annual report on government waste. I cover news events for Real America's Voice News, Pentagon correspondent, White House correspondent, along with Capitol Hill, and followed Trump on the road for 7 years across the country. A lot going on here. I just got back from an incredible day with the Navy Secretary yesterday at the historic Washington Navy Yards. You know, the Washington Navy Yards is the oldest federal facility still being run by the federal government along the Anacostia River flowing out to the Potomac. It helped defend us against the British in the War of 1812. And then we were at the Capitol turnaround, which was the trolley stop from Georgetown to the Washington Navy Yards, the last stop in this incredible venue here with the Secretary of the Navy. Trump appointed, John Phelan, who made his money with Michael Dell. He was the single investor manager for Michael Dell, who's now worth $150 billion or so. Just gave $6.5 billion for that, program for children being born in the U.S.
I want to talk about that $1,000 bonus that, at some point.
We have a lot of issues to talk about today. Great to see you. Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
Happy Hanukkah.
Are you allowed to say that? Here at the America First warehouse, you are.
Yes, you are.
Unlike Minnesota and other places where they now call it the holiday tree.
Yes, I have a Kwanzaa bush in the car.
Unbelievable. Joe liked that.
So yesterday, Steve, an incredible day. You know, the Army started a Rapid Capabilities Office in 2016, the Air Force in 2003, and now the Navy started one in September along with John Phelan, who's a very innovative guy. And Trump's defense acquisition agenda is executive order is to increase production for the U.S. Navy and the military and the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy, covering the Marines, in growing emerging threats that are really rapid, and we have to keep up with the times here. So this Rapid Capabilities Officer in the Navy, who has the toughest job of all the branches because they've involved
they're the troubleshooters.
Air wings, carrier defense, amphibious landings for the Marines, all kinds of threats. China outbuilding us 2.5 to 1 with ships. China shooting lasers into space that could take down our satellites. And we got all kinds of problems, right? So it was an incredible day. They're partnering with private industry, and Palantir Industries unveiled yesterday this ShipOS, our AI shipbuilding platform. You know, we used to produce ships for every 42 days in the United States.
Yeah.
And over the last 30 years, we've lost our edge. The woke agenda in the Pentagon is finito. It is gone. And I'm part of the new media in the Pentagon. We could talk about that too. But yesterday was an amazing day. I got to interview undersecretaries on Breaking Point this Saturday, 8 a.m. on Real America's Voice News. Download the app at 8 a.m. Saturday. I've got these interviews so you can get an idea of what the Navy is doing with Trump with the House Armed Services Committee in the passage of the National Defense Authorization Act to make sure that our stuff is built ready for wartime. They're acting like they're in a war footing right now to develop these weapon systems, produce more ships, defend America. You know, we had a Houthi missile come within a half a mile of the Harry S. Truman in like December or January. The Sea Whiz, the close-in weapon system, the Phalanx that shoots 6,000 rounds a minute, took it out, but too close for comfort.
Yeah.
And we had a diesel submarine take out an aircraft carrier in like a NATO-type exercise last week, I believe, and without advanced, applications. So we're vulnerable.
And now you got drones everywhere. It's the poor man's atomic weapon. And they're changing the landscape of warfare. And, we have to change with the times and get, adapt to this new world. But I saw an interesting poll where a vast majority of Americans, David, agreed that the U.S. should be capable of fighting two-front war.
Right.
Like
we used to be 2.5 to 1.
Right. And then that dissipated. And now, you mentioned we're starting to think being in wartime. Well, China has been in a wartime mentality against us now for 2 decades at least. They know that we're the enemy, and they treat us as such, and we just, wash our hands of it. Oh, no,
Ben,
they're
speaking
fine.
of drones, when I was on the ground, the Pentagon did a press release, gave it to us while we were there, that we have the first Middle East squadron of drones that was deployed to the Middle East. And Hegseth is trying to develop at least 340,000 drones by 2027. And he's moving, and Trump time, like Peter Navarro says, let's get it done in Trump time. And one thing that impressed me, so I was there with the legacy media last week after they left as new media. They're pissed that they couldn't go willy-nilly all over the Pentagon without ID, without credentials. They were leaking information. They were ambushing generals in the hallway, doing whatever the hell they wanted. You can't do it in the White House. They'll shoot you if you walk into the West Wing without permission. You can't just do whatever you want. And they wouldn't sign this new agreement that said you have to be accountable in the Pentagon. So we brought in new media, and it was an incredible experience. And before we get into that later and all that, I just wanted to say that the people that I interviewed, the undersecretaries and the people that I talked to, all were so excited to be working under Trump. And the attitude is go, go, go. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Let's bring America back. We're not worried about men and women's bathrooms.
That's it. It was all the woke crap, with the Biden administration.
I feel like they're very focused.
Yeah, I mean, whether it was Buttigieg in transportation, worried more about DEI courses than he was in preventing derailings where entire cities were poisoned, or in the military.
Or chest feeding.
Yeah, in the military, that everything, the audience is loving that. You're on a roll, David.
Be here all night.
The woke crap diverted our attention. Just like in the FBI, it was diverting our attention. Oh, it's all about white supremacy. In the meantime, they're allowing the Somali enclaves in Minnesota to rip us off by $1 billion, not paying attention. It's all diversion.
Maybe $12 billion, they're saying now. So I just wanted to add, Buttigieg, the thing that always sticks out in my mind, not only was he a terrible mayor in Indiana, he wasn't around to help solve the FAA's problems, but in Palestine, in East Palestine with the train derailment, remember they tried to interview him and he said, I'm going on a date with my husband. I don't have time to talk to you. People are getting like cancer down there.
That's after he took 3 months off for maternity leave in the first 2 months of the administration. You can't make this
My
stuff
wife thought
up,
I was
right?
pregnant this morning. So, unbelievable.
But speaking of the Navy, okay, we've got our carriers down by Venezuela, right? And the question is, we certainly have the ability to do what has to be done to take Maduro out. The question is, will Trump press that trigger? I think Maduro's going to wait him out. There was talk at first that Maduro's willing to leave, the president was rattling the saber, and he brought, was shooting those boats out of the water, and he's flying the planes up above to scare this guy. And I think while at first he was going to go, I think he's saying, hey, your MAGA contingent will not allow you or countenance you in coming in with troops. So the question is, would he send bombers in to scare him?
Yeah.
I don't know. Good question. But I think he's on the right track, getting rid of this thug. You think it's coming?
I think it's coming.
Okay.
There's bigger issues here, right? $3 trillion from the cartels invested down there. Cartels in 40 countries. Costa de los Soles, the cartel that Maduro makes all his money from. Fishing boats with quad 450 engines on them. So there's a lot going on. We can get into that. And I interviewed Tim Parlator, who's the senior advisor and JAG counsel to Pete Hegseth, on Secretary of War.
Regarding the second strike at that boat.
The Defense Law of War Manual, I can get into that with you, and I have their clarification on what you can and can't do as far as bombing and follow-up strikes.
Listen, this to me is a tough call. It's not a slam dunk. I'm all with the president in getting tough on these guys. Those who say, oh, just treat the cartel like any other criminal enterprise where you arrest them and you give them the trial. These people are at war with us. They are a military in and of themselves. They're killing more Americans every year, than Vietnam
And
death
Korea
squared. Right, exactly. So it's good that we've defined these guys as terrorists and are treating them like enemy combatants. I think it's a
not
closer
even,
call.
because I want to get into that with you, because you don't treat them according to Geneva 1, 2, 3, and 4, because they're not armed under a flag. They don't fly under a nation state. Just like Al Qaeda and Taliban on the battlefield in Afghanistan. We'll talk about those comparisons when we come back.
Yeah, and just a question of when you do have a first strike and you have a survivor, what do? It's a tough call that I think we need review and some legal analysis.
I have the answer from the Pentagon
All
on
right,
that.
I'd love to
and
hear
it's
that.
Pretty clear.
All right, like to see the video, but I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to let it out. I
don't
think
think
it's
it
probably
matters
incriminating.
at this point, but
Okay.
but it will haunt them in the public eye. But you had every right to sink the boat. You got to sink the boat.
Public's
And
in favor of it.
Until the boat is sunk, like we did to Japanese ships in the Pacific, you don't go after survivors. And that boat was not sunk yet. They hit it again.
All right.
Boom.
Let's
It's
keep
got to be
talking.
on the bottom of the ocean. We'll be right back. I'm David Zier. I'm here with Steve Levy from the America First Warehouse. Big shout out to Joe the Box and the great staff here.
Thank you, Joe.
Go to the AmericaFirstWarehouse.com. Check out all the great events and stuff going on here. We'll be right back.
Your money just doesn't stretch like it used to. Your paycheck feels lighter, and your savings aren't growing. The culprits? Inflation and increased money supply. They've both been quietly eating away at your purchasing power for years. Today, the dollar's value has dropped significantly. You feel it every time you spend money on goods and services. Back in 1965, $1 or an ounce of silver could buy you a gallon of milk. Fast forward to today. That same dollar barely buys a couple of coffee creamers, while an ounce of silver would get you 8 gallons of milk. Gold and silver have held their value for centuries. If you had 2,500 ounces of silver back in 1965, you could buy a brand new Ford Mustang. Today, 2,500 ounces of silver would buy you 2 Mustangs. Similarly, in the year 2000, 628 ounces of gold would buy a new $170,000 home. Today, 628 ounces would buy you a $2,500,000 home. The problem? 95% of Americans don't own physical gold or silver. They think it's too complicated and too expensive, but it doesn't have to be. We offer a membership program that allows you to buy gold or silver with as little as $1. You can buy fractional amounts, safely vault them, or have them delivered to your doorstep, and you can liquidate them whenever you want at the highest buyback price in the industry. Ready to protect your wealth and keep your purchasing power? Scan the QR code or go to tafw.soundmoney.com to learn more.
All right, live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island. Glad you're in.
It's me, Joe the Box. And I'm John the Blanket with the America First Podcast.
That's what I'm talking about. The Fred Rubino Podcast coming to you from the America First Warehouse.
Welcome to Right for America. Issues that unite, don't ignite.
I'm James Justice. We got Stephen Ruth over here. What are we doing, Steve? Fighting!
Welcome to the Patriots Podcast. Good evening, everyone. We live stream every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. right here from the America First Warehouse, the most patriotic venue in all the land.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast here at the America First Warehouse in Long Island, New York.
Welcome to Liberty's Cage, the podcast tearing down the walls of America's broken justice system.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Downey Jr. Podcast. Be free, stay free.
Welcome to Suffocating in Suburbia with me, your host, Stevie GB.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast. We're here at the America First Warehouse every Wednesday at 2 p.m. live, thanks to Joe the Box, who is our proprietor here, who created this amazing museum for patriots. If you're ever on Long Island, you got to come by. During the break, you might have seen one of those commercials on silver and gold. I really took a bigger look at it, And I was so convinced, I started to buy from that program. So if any of you guys are interested, I'm suggesting to you, go check out the America First Warehouse Sound Money. So it's TAFW soundmoney.com. Join me and many others signing up for this. I think it's going to pay big dividends down the road. With that said, I'm here with my co-host, David Zaire from Real America's Voice, down at the White House, down at the military facilities, day in, day out. And David, while you were there this past week, you started to get into the rules of engagement regarding the firing upon these cartel votes.
Second strike,
and the
yeah.
second strikes in particular. I had said in the previous broadcast, I'm okay with the first strike, a little leery with the second strike, depending on the circumstances. Of course, if it's not totally blown out of the water and it's still operational and it could fulfill its objective by delivering those drugs, you take it out. If it is disabled, you don't. But what do they say?
Well, at first look, if you talk about the Department of Defense's Law of War Manual, emphasizing the obligation as a paradigmatic example, and it's an order to kill shipwrecked persons, would appear to be illegal, clearly illegal, that you would question the legality of it and maybe disobey your superiors, right? And that's, I think Mark Kelly and the Seditious Six released their video in anticipation, knowing this video was coming out. You know, it's all staged, right?
They would have done it anyway, but they gave them a little extra
You
fuel.
got to look at it from the other side. And I interviewed the JAG lawyer, Tim Politor, as a senior advisor to Sec War Hegseth at the Pentagon, and there's a lot involved here. One, we don't sign on to Convention of the Sea, so we're not covered by international maritime law in this situation. Geneva 3 and 4 don't apply here. The Geneva Convention doesn't apply. You know, when we went rounding up al-Qaeda on the battlefields and bombing them and the Taliban in Afghanistan, they're not flying under a nation state or a flag. So do you need to treat them according to Geneva Convention, right? And that was always the argument. In this case, the similar would apply here. But what happened is, when you give an order, and this is according to the Pentagon, and it makes a lot of sense, in World War II, the Germans used to strafe our sailors when they'd sink a vessel. There was a big famous case where a Greek ship was destroyed by the Nazis, and they were prosecuted for war crimes for shooting the sailors after the ship was sunk. In the Pacific, in World War II, when we used to bomb aircraft carriers and the mission is to sink the boat. It's not to rescue survivors. And until that boat is sunk, you drop as many bombs and missiles on it as needed to sink it to the bottom of the ocean. That's the command that Admiral Bradley was following. So,
But when it's capsized and it's non-operational anymore, what do you do in a case like that?
It doesn't matter. If the mission is to sink the boat and get rid of the drugs, or sink the boat because it's armed and still a threat, you don't go rescue survivors until the boat is sunk.
I don't even think it's our obligation to rescue anybody. The question is, shouldn't you shoot them when they're just hanging on to a piece of wood?
The mission was to sink the boat.
Yeah.
And that took that was paramount.
Okay.
And that's what's going to probably win their case in front of Congress.
I would just say that there is a reason to have rules of war, as you mentioned earlier, because the idea is you want to hope that when we're on the other side of that, where one of our boats has been sunk and one of our loved ones is holding on to a piece of wood, that there's some kind of rules
You mean when we're
there.
transporting drugs to kill 100,000 people a year into another country? And not in uniform
what I'm
under a nation state or a flag as a narco-terrorist organization?
What I'm afraid of is some will try to use this. Let's say we did go overboard. Just assume it for a second, okay? There will be many say, see, stop doing the bombings in the first place, because that's what some of these doves want to do. And that would be a terrible mistake, because as you say, 100,000 people, mostly, you know, young males, 18 to 30 is the biggest single cause of death amongst our young people. They're terrorists. They're killing us on purpose.
And this isn't the 80s where you had, cocaine coming into Miami or whatever. People doing cocaine for 20, 30 years at a time. The drugs that are coming into the United States are mixed with fentanyl, synthetic opioids, synthetic fentanyl type stuff that kills you with a grain.
You're taking a
with one
legitimate
grain.
drug, and it's laced, and you're dead.
And more people have died in the last 10 years than every war combined in the 20th century of U.S. casualties. Just in the last 10 years from these drugs.
And China's doing it on purpose, David.
And that's getting cut into the drugs. So, okay, cocaine from Venezuela and Colombia is not fentanyl per se, right? And some is. But you're taking the fentanyl that's made in China and other places. Now there's other synthetic stuff that doesn't even have to come from China, and they're cutting it with that, and everyone's dying, right? So it's a national crisis. It's an emergency. So in the law, it says for the orders to be able to do these strikes that the Pentagon's following, it says you're not allowed to kill the survivors or kill or stop bombing until the imminent threat is gone to physical harm to American lives. It's to paraphrase that, right? So you can make the argument that there is an imminent threat to American lives with these guys and the boats.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That it needs to get sunk.
It's not like a bomb is blowing up within 2 hours, but when that stuff hits the shore, you know, more Americans have been killed from fentanyl, this garbage, than any bombs on our shores in the last 2 decades. I mean, 9/11 was horrific, but 9/11 is a footnote compared to the amount of deaths from fentanyl on a yearly basis.
And the America First warehouse here, you know, people very involved here have lost family members due to drugs.
And
Margie Kochman lost 2 sons to opioids and fentanyl, right? So.
And you know, the libs who say, well, you should treat this in a criminal matter by going after them, or arresting them with due process, giving them a trial. How's that been working out? How's that been working out over the past few decades? And you know, this is not just another Cosa Nostra type of gambling or the old type of drug war. This is the cartels, who are a military organization, let's face it, being fed by our military enemy in China, trying to knock off as many young men, fighting age men as they can.
With an illegitimate president of Venezuela who stole the election by 30 points, and that's proven, right? So
we took out Noriega, right?
We did, but you know, it was also being used by the U.S. for many years until he wasn't convenient anymore, and we took him out, right? So,
but he was selling drugs, and he was
and we turned our eye to that. We turned a blind eye to that for a long time here. This, if you look at it through a soda straw or a stovepipe, you know, my wish list would be, okay, let's interdict on the high seas. The Coast Guard just made the biggest bust ever, I think, of cocaine the other day off the coast of America.
It's hard to do.
But this is different.
It's not a
You've got the cartels in 40 countries. You've got a leader who's cooperating with another socialist leader in Colombia who's an America hater. This is heating up. This isn't going anywhere. You've got oil in Guyana under threat by Venezuela. You've got China building warplanes in Argentina. You've got China, Iran, and Russia in Venezuela. I think this is about something big.
Did you say Argentina or Brazil?
Yeah, Argentina, I think.
In Argentina, the Malay, the Chinese are building there?
The Chinese are trying to build.
Well, whichever. Whatever happened to the Monroe Doctrine, right?
Right.
You know, Biden and Obama was cozying up to Cuba. Biden was a weakling that no one feared. So all of a sudden you have China and Russia just blatantly, brazenly coming into these far-left nations here in the Western Hemisphere. Nobody was doing a darn thing about it. And give credit to President Trump for saying, hey, not on my watch, not in our hemisphere. We're pushing back.
The election was stolen, too. Bolsonaro's in jail. That's total bull. It's total bull. I spoke to a very successful woman last week who owns a spaceport in Uruguay, and very, very knowledgeable. And I've interviewed Bolsonaro's son a few times. But, you know, I think there's no question what's going on in South America, right? And maybe an imminent threat to our sovereignty.
Oh, hey.
We'll see, right?
Hey, listen, just remember who invented those voting machines, those electronic voting machines. Venezuela, Hugo Chavez asked for companies to specifically design him these machines that you know can be played with. Now, I'm not making the accusation that that's happened in any widespread scale in America, but the question should be, can it be played with in the future. And we had a professor go before a judge in real time and showed that judge that with a credit card and a Bic pen, he can change the outputs on that machine. Now, I'm not saying they're interconnected through the internet that you can change every vote in the nation, but all you need to change is a couple of precincts within a couple of districts with the Electoral College, and you flipped an election.
Just like my wife can change my financial status with a credit card and a pen. Jesus.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You know, Obama had a phone and a pen, and your wife's got the credit card and a
Yeah,
pen. That's
and
more
an
lethal.
auto pen can shape U.S. policy for 6 months in the White House.
We got a minute left in this. I want to tease the folks out there because in the next segments, we want to talk about Trump's affordability tour. Is he hitting the right tone? And then I want to talk about the amazing hypocrisy of the New York Times folks. Did you see this? Did you read about this? The New York Times had this huge article about, wow, Joe Biden and immigration. Who knew that he was doing something that was going to be political dynamite? And he wasn't listening to his advisors. And how did this happen? Do you know that this happened right under our nose? Duh, no, New York Times. Thanks for telling us about this. I guess next you're going to tell us that Joe Biden was seriously cognitively declining in his later years. Yeah, thanks, New York Times. We'll be back in 3 minutes on the Right Side Podcast.
You've worked hard and saved, but inflation and increased money supply are eroding your buying power. Protect and grow your wealth with physical gold and silver. Sound Money. With a Sound Money wallet, your wealth stays in your control. Buy fractionally, vault securely, ship directly, and instantly liquidate your gold and silver at the highest buyback price in the industry. Real money, real ownership. Visit tafwsoundmoney.info or scan the QR code and start securing your financial future today.
The America First Ultra MAGA store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA store.
All right, live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island. Glad you're in.
Corporate transfer. Fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
America First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed because there is nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're watching On the Right Side, live from the America First Warehouse. Go to the AmericaFirstWarehouse.com. Catch all the latest and greatest on what's going on here. Amazing venue. Here with Steve Levy, my co-host, former Suffolk County executive, former New York State assemblyman, a fiscal conservative, on the ball, run the Center for Cost-Effective Government, and you can find out where all your taxpayer money is being thrown down the drain. I'm David Zier,
We were
Real
Doge
America's
before Doge.
Voice News, and yeah, he was before Doge, and now, you know, Musk is saying Doge wasn't all it was cracked up to be. So, but we're so grateful to be here on this Christmas holiday coming up. I want to wish everybody happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and any other religion you may practice as we get into this great time. Cold winter, probably coldest winter in 50 years coming, snow coming, and here in New York, a lot going on though, right? The mayor's race in Miami, right? Eileen Higgins, Democrat, wins over the Trump-endorsed Republican candidate.
This is the sentiment. You know, you have your red waves, you have your blue waves. This is the blue wave that's hitting. Tennessee might have been an anomaly because she was such a nutcase, the Democratic candidate who said she hated the city she was trying to represent, but she still came within 9 points of winning that seat.
And we'll get into that because the Republicans underperformed there.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, because, you know, Trump was winning by 20-something points.
22, yeah.
But now in Miami, I mean, I have to write a book on how people commit suicide politically. And, you know, you think that Florida was the oasis where they were always bucking the trend, and it's run magnificently by Governor DeSantis.
And Francis Suarez, a Republican, was really a great mayor.
Absolutely, absolutely. But Miami was an outlier. It was a Republican-run city, and it was a good city, a well-run city. You didn't hear Miami when you were listing these crazy blue cities like Memphis, even though it's in a red state, it's a blue city. Memphis and Baltimore and Minneapolis, you know, these cities, San Francisco, who are always at the top of craziness, rampant crime, all kinds of problems, the sanctuary cities. So you had something good going there, people of Miami. Why would you blow it? Just like New York is. You had a great run going there with first Giuliani and then Bloomberg, and then you pick a Marxist in de Blasio who destroys your city, and then you say, well, he's gone, thank God. Now let's double down and have a true communist in there. You know, and now Miami's doing the same thing. Not that she's a communist, but she's a far lefty.
Yeah, New York is Dante's Inferno, so you can't go by that, right? You know, just look at the Halloween parade in the Village, all the guys dancing naked. It's unbelievable what's going on in New York. It's hedonism. So this is big news. But, you know, the trend for Congress in the summary of the last 6 or 7 polls in Real Clear Politics show the Democrats are going to take the House by 4 seats, maybe, or they're +4. So we're 220 to 213 right now. So it's very close. The Republicans are in a position where they may lose the House.
Oh, yeah. I think it's if you're a betting person, you got to go with that.
And in Tennessee, Trump won that district by 22.
Right.
There was a 13-point gain among the Democrats. Now, that's even with the Democratic candidate being a jerk and criticizing her own district about, you know, hating country music and the tourism that supports the economy in Nashville. Imagine she was a good candidate. She may have had a 20-point
hey, the guy in Virginia
gain over where Trump won.
The
That's
guy
bad.
in Virginia, the AG candidate.
Yeah.
The guy talked about killing his opponent and watching the children die in their mother's arms and wins by 5 or 6 points. I mean, that's what a wave is all about, and it's quite scary. So the question is, will the Trump policies, and this segues into the whole concept of his affordability tour, because we know there's a great deal of discontent out there related to the lack of affordability. And the amazing joke of this is that the people who caused this, the Democratic Party, is now saying, trust us, we could make things more affordable. You caused it. So now, Trump's big mistake was saying, on day one, I'm going to be able to reverse all this. That was never true, was never going to happen. But Reagan showed that over a 2-year stretch, you can have a remarkable turnaround. Trump should be, in my opinion, David, be highlighting the fact that just look to my first term. I put in a tax cut deregulation platform just like Reagan did. And no surprise to anyone, we had a flourishing economy before COVID hit, okay? Give me the chance to repeat that.
It was 2 years into Trump's term.
Right, just like Reagan, 2 years.
So I was on the ground in the campaign in 2019, 2020, and I saw places like Toledo, blue cities, former glass shipping in the 1800s, 1900s, it hurting. Democrat run. Trump brought back the GE plant, the Whirlpool plant. He had the tanks being built in the Lima plant in Ohio, the M1 tanks. And it took a while. And next year, the economy's in takeoff, right? He's got $19 trillion investment back into America, American manufacturing. Interest rates are going to be below 6% in 2 months to buy.
They got to get to 4, but
it's got to get to 4, and it's not happening quick enough, right? So Trump goes on this tour, right? He's in Pennsylvania last night. My question is, and Trump's going to do more of this, and things are going to get better, and oil's at $58 a barrel today. The market's up 10% if you have a 401k since he took office. You're doing good with your retirement, but not enough for people, right?
Yeah, you know, when people ask, and also when people ask, how's the economy, there's a one-word answer. Depends. Depends who you are, all right? If you are in a house that's paid off or a house that has that 2.5% mortgage, you might be okay. You might be doing pretty well because your 401s are going through the roof and you're at that age where you're starting to draw down on it, okay? But the gains in a 401k don't really help a 40-year-old who's running a family because you're not going to tap that money now. You need money now to pay those bills. And if you're trying to buy a house with these mortgage rates where they are, you're not going to be able to do it, which has pushed rentals to crazy land here in New York. You know, people paying $3,000 for a 2-bedroom junky apartment. But the point is, what the president has to do is bring this back to who caused it. Why do we have a housing problem? Because we have a housing shortage, in part because Biden brought in 20 million new people illegally who are competing with you for that housing, mostly rental, but some purchase as well. That has led to spending going through the roof to feed these people, school them, transport them. So the Fed says, we've got to yank up the interest rate, so now you can't buy the house. Then they put in the Green New Deal that doubles or increases your electric bill by 50% in 4 or 5 years. Who caused it? You're going to trust those same people to bring it down? Give it a year and let's see what happens.
The optics of it, though, is, you know, I've covered over 100 Trump rallies, and the energy is just amazing. It's grassroots. It's a groundswell. Small business owners punished under COVID came out en masse. People can't feed their families, right? But you can't make people feel good about the economy if they still go home and they can't afford to live.
That's right.
So it's a
they see it at the grocery store.
It's a rough start for the Trump visit to Pennsylvania.
And he's got to feel their pain.
But he's going to do more of this, and things are going to get better. But I just wanted to add, the media is so stupid, right?
Newsflash.
But I'm reading
legacy media.
I'm reading a Reuters article, and they're interviewing a 70-year-old man at the Mount Airy Lodge Casino where this event was in the Poconos in Pennsylvania, right, yesterday. And he's like, prices are up 20, 30%. And they say, Robert Stewart, 70, who described himself as an independent and had come to the casino to gamble. So you have enough money to go gambling, but you can't afford eggs, right? Maybe that's the problem, Mr. Stewart. But listen, the optics are rough because, you know, don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining.
Right.
That's what I guess the media is trying to do to Trump.
Yeah.
But things are going to get a lot better. And the Trump economy is here. It's coming.
And he's got to tell them, to folks, be patient. It will happen just like it happened in my first term. You can't entrust the people who caused this to cure it. But you cannot. The president cannot go up there and say, everything's down. turkey dinner is down 25%. It's not true. People know it's not true. It's hurting your credibility. Just say, look, I said on day one I'd lower your gas prices. I did.
And he lowered inflation from 9 to 2%.
That's right. That's right. But you can't say they're down. The rate of increase has slowed tremendously, okay? And I've got a package that was passed this year. It's going to really take off next year. I see that you're hurting. I see that it's not where we want it to be yet. But hang on. That's the message. It cannot be. Don't believe your lying eyes. Everything is great. You know, because I brought gasoline down, everything else is fine. It's not. It takes a long time. You've got to plead with people to be patient. It's not down that much because Biden unloaded our reserves right before he left office.
The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the refinery capacity, all that stuff. But Trump's taking oil permit times from 24 months down to like 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's why it's $1.99 in some states. And it's going to go lower.
I saw $1.95 in Texas.
Yeah. Right? And when you're filling up your tank to heat your home, it's going to save you probably $1,000.
But oil's still $3.20 a gallon. Yeah. Home heating oil.
Right.
And it's high. And diesel's
but it's
still
not
high.
the $3.99 that I had 2 years ago.
Diesel for trucking is still enormously high. And that, for some reason, doesn't come down when unleaded gas does. There's a lot of other issues with that. Independent truckers are getting crushed. Between that and their legacy costs, they're disappearing. There's still supply chain problems. But things are going to get better. I guess we got to be patient.
Just be truthful.
Yeah, be truthful. Yeah,
don't try to con people because that's what Biden did and it got him crushed. Just be truthful.
Yeah.
So next segment, we'll talk about the New York Times and their flip-flops.
I don't want to talk about the New York Times.
Oh, I want to talk about this because they're so full of garbage. That and the climate change reversals, all these zealots.
Sure.
Be back in
Bill
3 minutes.
Gates.
Yep.
Most people think they have options when searching for the best deals when they travel. But here's the shocking truth. 100% of the major travel agencies are owned by just 2 entities, Expedia and Booking Holdings. They claim to offer the lowest rates, but due to the hotel rate parity agreement, they all have the same pricing, limiting genuine competition. When you book through these sites, you act as your own travel agent, but the profits are going to organizations that don't support our patriot values. We cannot allow that to continue. So, we decided to make travel great again by starting a US-based travel membership platform, mypatriottravel.com. We are patriots helping patriots. Together, we can disrupt the travel industry by not spending our hard-earned dollars supporting the radical left. For just $29.99 per month, you gain access to true wholesale rates on travel, saving you on average 35% and up to 65%. Book as often as you like, with no limits. Keep your hard-earned dollars in your pocket and spend them on things you need and want to support. Go to mypatriottravel.com/TAFW and grab your membership today. mypatriottravel.com/TAFW, making travel great again.
Hey, fellow patriots, it's Cindy Gross here, host of Right for America from your favorite place, the America First Warehouse. You've seen me show on my show so many products from this country's #1 most patriotic manufacturer with close to 400 products. You need to exchange the products you use in your house to this company and make your dollars count in our country.
All right, live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island. Glad you're in.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
folks, welcome back to the last segment of the On the Right Side podcast. Coming to you from the America First Warehouse in Long Island, New York. I'm Steve Levy, your co-host, former New York State Assemblyman, former county executive, contributor to Newsmax, and many other things on the resume. But more importantly, I've got the one and only David Zare. So I just did an introduction of myself, which you probably didn't hear, so you weren't missing anything, folks. I'm Steve Levy, but this is David Zare from Real America Voice. Hello again, my friend.
Hi, Steve. Yeah, we had some great conversations today about all kinds of things, and one of those things is the EPA scrubbing man-made climate change from its website yesterday. That they no longer list that. Like in October, it said that it's clear. In October, the page said it's unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land. I guess that was a leftover from the prior administration, but that's gone now.
See, I happen to believe that man's activity does have an impact on the atmosphere and the climate. You burn stuff, the particulate goes up there, and it's going to have an impact. Okay, so I'll admit that I don't think the idea of climate change itself is a hoax. I think it's real. But the question is, what do you do about it? That's where I think the lefties went crazy, and they used it as an excuse for power.
Was it man-made climate change when the Romans grew wine grapes in Scotland 2,000 years ago, or farm and fishing villages in Greenland grew barley 1,000 years ago by the Vikings? Right.
But it's also logical that when you burn stuff, the particulate goes up and it creates a greenhouse effect.
Hydrocarbon emissions.
And that's why we've had the highest things on, the highest.
So Elon Musk maintains that, and some people have challenged him on this, but that there's not enough particulates in the atmosphere yet until about 2100 that we have to worry about it.
Well, that's the question. Is it an existential threat? No. But these charlatans created this concept. This is where the hoax come in. Not that it's fake that the weather's changing or it's getting warmer. That's it's indisputable
it's
that
cold here. And the Farmer's Almanac predicted that 250 years ago.
But
that we were
overall
gonna have a cold
temperatures
winter.
have been going up. But but what the lefties wanted to do, David, they said, oh, this is like COVID. We now have the opportunity to tell everybody out there, you're going to die. You're going to die within
2030,
within 5 years, 10 years. Al Gore, we're going to be underwater in 2020, and we're all going to die. Why did they do that? Tell you what, you give us money, and you give us unlimited power, and we will save you.
Yeah.
And that's what it was all
Carbon
about.
offset exchange in Chicago, right?
So you had Bill Gates, we're all going to die. And what does he do the other day? In a massive reversal says, we might have exaggerated our impending doom. Maybe we can take those trillions of dollars that we're throwing down the rat hole on the climate change project, which hasn't worked, and instead do health care, improve sanitary conditions, and save millions of lives now. And now you had a study from Berkeley that was the premise for all the hysteria when they said it was going to be $38 trillion of economic damage to the world. Said, oops, we were really off on that.
Mr. Environmental Bill Gates is building the Natrium nuclear reactor in Wyoming right now, in Kemmerer. So, listen, nuclear energy is the way to go. Anyway, France gets about 75% of its energy from nuclear power. They're the only net exporter of electricity in Europe, and now energy costs 35 to 42 cents a kilowatt in Germany, because under every grid that's windmills and solar, you have to have a conventional 24-hour combustible cycle plant, coal and natural gas burning facilities to keep the electric grid stable. So the alternative fuels or renewables are only a supplement, right? So now they're stacked on top of each other. France doesn't have that problem because they didn't go green with as much as the other European nations. And it only costs us 12 cents a kilowatt to make fossil fuels in the U.S.
Yeah. And we're starting to reverse on that. Nuclear is becoming back in vogue, primarily because of the AI revolution, and there is such an enormous need for extra energy, and solar and wind are not going to do it. So if you don't want to lose the AI race to China, you really have to do something about this. And nuclear, you have the companies themselves, like Apple and Amazon, saying, we'll build our own. Just let us do it, you know?
Yeah, the SMRs are the future. It's the small modular reactors, and you're going to have, right now in Abilene, Texas, 30 feet underground, they have a 1 megawatt nuclear reactor, and in Tennessee, in the TVA, on Oak Hill, where they developed the Manhattan Project, has a 30 megawatt small modular reactor. We're only about 4 years out from the technology being implemented on a broader scale here, because the average nuclear power plant, a reactor that's built in the United States right now of scale, is 300 to 900 megawatts, going into terawatts, right? But these smaller ones can be put in AI factories. They can be put in factories themselves because they're contained and they're smaller and they're a little safer. So one of those go bad, you're not going to kill 100,000 people, right? So,
but one thing I got to say,
the future.
One thing Lee Zeldin did do, and I don't agree with him to take the thing about man-made causes, but I do agree with him with going after these NGOs. That was the scam with the Democratic
Party.
Party.
$20 billion in waste.
Absolutely. These guys, I mean, as they were going out the door, it was like I think it was their words, they were throwing money like they were sinking in a Titanic, just throwing money around to every one of
the
their...
new administration was coming in, right?
Right, but they wanted to get the money out to all their favorite people, like Stacey Abrams, who got like suggested they give her $1 billion contract, you know? It's just unbelievable. It was grift. And the idea is, we get this money from the taxpayer by scaring them to death. We give it out to all of our friends who then give it back to us in campaign donations and with community organizer help when it comes to bringing people together to get out the vote. That's the scam. And so glad that they're finally capping it. Now, talk about hypocrisy. I got to go back to the New York Times, okay?
Yeah.
Folks, if you didn't see this, you got to read this article about how the New York Times is doing. It wasn't even a mea culpa, like we made a mistake. It was a Jake Tapper kind of a book, you know, 3 years after the fact. Hey, I just discovered that Joe Biden was going bonkers, okay? Thanks, Jake. While you were berating people like Lara Trump, who was recommending that, you know, while Biden was still in office, real brave of you to do it now. And here's the New York Times saying, hey, we just realized that there was all this illegal immigration that happened. And Joe Biden was doing it, and we don't know why.
So they're using him as the fall guy. They're so dishonest. Like they didn't know that the whole open border thing all this time has been about changing the census so Democrats can take Congress for 50 years and the presidency, right? They know that the whole time. And now they're saying, oh, it appears that Joe Biden, you know, was blind or ignored warnings about illegal immigration. Yeah, okay.
Totally deliberate. And, you know, shame on John Roberts and that court that upheld this idea that illegal aliens can be counted in a census. That was not the intent. It should not be the law.
Yeah.
And it screws up the whole system because it has incentivized the Democrats to bring in these millions of people. And you have some of them. I think it was Representative Clark in New York who said, we're losing all of our people to other states. If we don't replenish them here with these immigrants, and she meant the illegal immigrants, we're going to lose our seats. And we're going to lose power. And that's what it was all about to some of these guys. Just an utter disgrace. But thank you, New York Times. Just like, you know, after the election, you told us about the Hunter Biden laptop that you finally admitted it, you know, and they're just so dishonest. It's absolutely disgusting. Hey, in the 3 minutes left, we're going to have the big healthcare showdown coming up, okay? It's the end of January that they're going to have to, you know, fish or cut bait again. At least
the CR expires.
Yes. At least the Republicans now are actually coming up with a plan. I've been so critical of the Republicans for all these years. Okay, you're against Obamacare. I agree with you. What's your alternative? They never had one. They're talking about one now. Senator Cassidy from Louisiana has great ideas. Even Trump is saying, hey, I'd rather give that money directly to the people to buy their own health care. Let there be competition. It'll bring everything down, because the only ones who've made out from Obamacare have been the insurance companies, who've had their stock go through the roof because we've been padding the insurance companies with taxpayer dollars.
And remember, it was John Roberts tipping the scales that caused Obamacare.
John Roberts, the worst freaking Chief
Yeah.
Justice ever.
I worked with Lee Zeldin and Tom Coburn, Senator Tom Coburn from Oklahoma, who was a gynecologist. He offered
Good fiscal conservative.
He offered free services to the Indians and Native Americans stuff. He was a great guy, Coburn, Senator,
Yeah.
right? I was kind of part of it, fighting the ACA coming into effect. But I didn't really see the Republicans with an alternate plan.
They didn't have a
That was
plan.
my
I've written
point.
about this 10 times.
Yeah.
And they deserve to get shellacked for it. I mean, at the time, you had 44 million people uninsured. So the Democratic plan sucked. But if you're one of the 44 million, you say, oh, we don't care. You're going to cover me? Cover me. And at least they did something. It was a bad plan because it took tort reform off the table at the very beginning.
Tort reform's big.
Yeah, and it created all of these problems, and you could get a better system, but the Republicans didn't have an alternative. You had John McCain giving thumbs down that allowed Obamacare to stay, but had the Republicans perhaps had an alternative, we could have stopped Obamacare now. Then, finally, they have one now. We'll see what happens. It's going to be ugly, David. It's going to be ugly.
It's going to be really ugly. I just want to say the Republicans can pick up 13 seats if everything goes well in November. The Democrats can pick up 5 to 7 flip 9 seats for them. But the Republicans are on a path to lose the House if they do. Trump's last 2 years are not going to be very fun. It's critical to keep the House red.
Yeah, well,
wake up,
folks,
everybody.
in a week from now, we're going to have a lot more to talk about, so we really do appreciate you joining us here on the right side. It's every Wednesday at 2 p.m. live. I'm Steve Levy. Follow me on stevelevy.info for all of my writings, and the Center for CostEffectiveGovernment.org.
And I'll be on the White House most of next week. If I can plug in for next week's show, I will. And or I'll be here. So let's see.
Happy holidays
Thank you,
all. We'll see you
everyone.
next week on the right side.